existence.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Radiant Black podcast. This is a podcast focused on all things Radiant Black and the Masterverse by Kyle Higgins, Marcelo Costa, Becca Carey. And at this point, I'd throw Igor Monti in there because he's doing so amazing. Eduardo Farigato, Michael Basudel. We're even going to talk about a little bit of Roguestone, just a little bit, just tease. Today, I'm joined by my friends Matt and Ali, and my other friend Joseph, or Joe, as we know him, Joelovescomics. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Yeah, it's good to finally be on here, be listening for a while. Yeah, great series. Good to talk, finally.
Yeah, happy to have you on here. It's a big issue that we have you on for, and I'm really excited to dive into it. Another masterpiece from the Radiant Black team.
Yeah, I was saying before, it was fun because when I first asked, we obviously didn't know what was going to happen with this issue, and then it all came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I picked a good one. This is going to be a fun conversation.
It's a great issue. Excited to finally meet Joe. He's been a great member of the community so far.
Wednesday polls, he writes really good weekly
thanks.
Reviews and everything.
Yeah,
I actually really enjoy reading and hearing your thoughts on them. So yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that's always good fun. Just keeping another great comics podcast that's worth checking out. But yeah, it's good fun just to have that place to write and talk about the week's comics as they come out.
Does it change the way you read comics? Do you enjoy them differently, knowing that you have to know them in depth and stuff like that?
Not really. I think it enriches how you see them in some ways when you have to start thinking about your thoughts, and it's always quite satisfying getting your thoughts out there and properly, rather than just sort of stirring inside you, is that where you can articulate them, and it's an interesting thing to do week on week and see how your reviews change over time, looking at your old ones, and that's always fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So before we dive into the podcast, we actually just give a brief introduction for some of the newer listeners. I recently posted on the Radiant Black subreddit, so there's some awesome folks there, so really happy to see that. But yeah, we just cover everything on the Massiveverse: Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Radiant Red, soon Dead Lucky, and we always like to have some creators on. We do a lot of giveaways, and we love to also invite community members like Joe to talk with us. There's also a Radiant Black Discord, which is a Discord we created for the community where we chat about all things Radiant Black, comic books, pop culture, and we even have quite a few of the creators of the comic book in there. So if you're interested, you can probably find a link in the description and come check that out. Speaking of, let's dive into issue number 15, starting with, a really big moment actually in the issue. They don't even give us a second to breathe. It's immediately Nathan communicating with the robot, and that's kind of significant because we know, well, not only we've been waiting for this moment as readers, but last issue there was tension between Marshall and Nathan because he was kind of talking, like Marshall felt as if Nathan was talking behind his back. So what'd you guys think of this?
It was interesting. The colours, as always, are just gorgeous. That's always the one thing you notice about those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, Igor Monti goes hard, and I noticed the last few issues he's had a color assistant, Sabrina Del Grosso. I mean, she's also doing an incredible job. So I noticed the love and detail they put into every single page. And I forgot to mention, this is actually co-written by Kyle Higgins and Alex Siegel. Both of them are writers and co-creators of Cal, so there's that. If you haven't checked out Cal, I highly recommend it. It's amazing. It's another story written by I just mentioned them, and it's got artwork by Rod Rice. Amazing art. I forgot what they called it, but he was doing it's his first actual interior debut. So there was that, and he did an amazing job. It's also got obviously Becca Carey on the letters, always killing it, and editing and designing by Michael Basudel. So I noticed that Eduardo Farigato did the art for this issue, but we have 3 pages actually, where Marcelo Costa did the artwork. So that's pretty cool.
Starting off in Existence is really cool. This is such a big issue that when I reread it, I thought, oh yeah, we went to Existence. Existence, it still is a massive thing, but this issue was really cool. I like the Death Battle format and their take on it. But yeah, Existence, we get some serious questions asked, and we learn that the robot doesn't even know what's going on, which is interesting. So we know the robot is not all knowing. I don't know if it's with this situation in particular, because Nathan died and or quote unquote died or looked like he died, and they're passing on a Radiant while the other person lives. So there's still a connection. Maybe he's referring to that, or maybe there's a bigger implication.
I think since every connection is permanent, for the duration of their lives, Nathan might be the first one to kind of like pretty much die and then come back. So the connection is still there, but he doesn't have a radiant. So we'll see. It's definitely an interesting story thread that I'm excited to learn more about in the upcoming issues.
It's been fun to see how that's been unraveling ever since, like, obviously Nathan was brought back, and everything that's just been like developing there, sort of slowly boiling in the background almost. It's just eventually going to explode into something epic.
I love the panel flow. The difference, like you can feel, at least for me, I felt the immediate difference between like Ferrigato's artwork and Costa's. I feel like Ferrigato's has a slightly more cinematic vibe in the sense that the panels flow more like a movie. There's this very natural flow when you're reading it. The progression is very smooth. I love he has, I feel like, a more deep focus on the facial articulation, so you could see a lot of emotions in the exchange between like the two people speaking. Even though the robot himself obviously doesn't have facial emotions, you can tell from the way he's moving, or from the way that I guess normally you would say if this was a TV show the camera's angled, right? But in this sense you could see from the way the panels are angled that the conversation takes on some interesting emotions. There's a lot of Nathan's really, I feel like he's confused because he's trying to figure out where he fits in all this, but also why the robot's just talking to him and not Marshall.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the angles in this issue that's about a film set. Like everything ties into film in this, where you have JJ choosing she has to go to LA to help with the shoot, and those angles, and like the robot's getting low. Like the robots, we're seeing that it's basically on Nathan's level. Like we know as much as the robot does in this specific situation. So I think that's a good call about the angles and the perspective and framing of the scenes.
Do we know when the last time the robot actually talked to Marshall was? Because that's something that kind of like slipped my mind until I was reading this issue. I was like, damn, they really haven't talked in a while.
Wasn't it like since existence? I'm saying, but I'm guessing
that's what I'm thinking. But that doesn't really even count, because like they were in the same area, right? Like Marshall physically went into existence. It's not like they're talking in their head or whatever.
Then maybe since like he threatened him on the train tracks, because that's like the last time.
Ooh, yeah.
All I think about.
I think
what if
too.
What if like 001 can become like Nathan's AI or something? I think that'd be pretty cool. We still haven't seen him in like 5 issues, so you forget that he's lingering in there. We still have these cool series, and this young series, we've got these awesome characters sitting on the back burner that can show up at any time. I'm not mentioning a certain character that I got shit on Discord for mentioning. No, I'm not gonna convert anybody to them anymore. Okay, we're done. But anyways, that's.
I know you sort of made comparisons to Invincible before, in like a similar way. There's so many different plot threads that they can just sort of like gradually unveil and like pull to the forefront when necessary, and like bring back and return to. It's all very interesting, especially as you say, this early stage of the series, relatively.
For sure, and it's like I actually, now that I think about it, because I've done several rereads of the first like 6 to 10 issues, but I haven't done many rereads of post that just because of timing and all the other series I've been reading. But now that I think about it, when we think back to issue number 13, where spoiler alert, make sure you're reading these issues. We're all going to cover spoilers here, obviously, but now I have established that. Let's go into it. In issue 13, at the end of it, when he accesses that like God mode radio, like the dark mode radio, he goes like full black with the white cape. Yeah, so I find it especially concerning or suspicious or curious even that the robot hasn't contacted him after that happened, because you think that's a big deal, right? Like that's a weird moment for him, because he just tapped into this power that he didn't even know he had, and it's way different than just cape mode, for example. Like he literally went all dark mode. So I think like it's interesting that the robot hasn't spoken to him, considering things have happened, like several things have happened, not only in terms of Marshall's life himself, but in terms of his relationship with the Radiant.
Good point. Yeah, I think that is interesting that we haven't heard from him, and also like bringing someone back from death like they did with Nathan, like that's got to be a big thing. I don't know if there's like, I'm not saying like there's like this chosen one thing, but that's got to be a big deal of all the people that get Radiance being able to go in after and bring someone back from basically death, only having Radiant for what, like 6 months or however long he had it. I think that's pretty impressive. Might have been a year. I forget how long Nathan was in the coma for. But yeah, I think that would also set up some flags. And who knows? Also, 001 could be doing some damage in there or not. There's a lot of factors we don't know. We are the robot in this. We don't know what the hell's going on. Actually, we're like Nathan. So yeah, it's a mess, but in a good mess.
Yeah, for all we know, 001 is the one causing all this shit.
He's
We
pulling
still
the
really
string.
don't know his like full motivations either.
Moving on to the next page, I think one thing's really interesting is that, this is a comic book that covers a lot of real issues, but it also has some really interesting commentary, I feel, from Kyle Higgins and the rest of the team. And one particular instance of that is we see obviously this glorification of like superheroes just in general, and that's displayed literally on the window of the store when we see the Radiant Black versus Blaze poster for the first time. But also Marshall's immediate reaction is almost that of like a fanboy, where he's like, "Oh, it's nothing but a cash grab." And then Nathan's more receptive to it, right? He's like, I don't know, man. They got Reginald James back, and that's, if you don't know, Reginald James is the Blaze. Check him out on Twitter. He's awesome. He's obviously the actor that plays Blaze in the League.
You
He
could feel
looks,
his excitement to
yeah.
reprise the role too online. He's great.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. And he was part of the animation, which we're going to talk about later. But yeah, so this is awesome. Like, I think this is really cool. We've got this unlicensed fan film. We've got some cynicism coming from Marshall, but a little bit of positivity from Nathan, which we'll see play out more in the issue later on. And it's kind of it's a little positive moment, I guess, because it gives us something to look forward to. But then you got the gut punch coming from JJ right after.
Yeah, not good. They're right outside of real world. They're talking about how she's going to go and do this film. So it's interesting, like how she's leaving, and then we see that I like Marshall's reaction later. Like he's trying not to be too happy about it because he's hyped about it because he's getting his friend back, even if his friend is hurt. So that's going to add even more strain to this already strained dynamic. So I thought that was that's a nice touch by Higgins, and I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I never expected her to last too long. Like thematically, she already kind of fulfilled her purpose, supporting Nathan. So we'll see if she plays a larger role later on.
For sure. I mean, one thing I loved as a nerd, I feel like we could all appreciate is like these little cute moments when you're reading the issue and they're walking through the film set and then you see Blaze's gauntlet and like a Radiant Black helmet, obviously movie props for the actors on set. And I just think to myself, like, man, I can't wait till the day where Radiant Black is super popular by the mainstream, kind of like Invincible, hopefully. And we see this thing kind of going up, for us, hopefully Kyle Higgins will be the person, the creative behind the movie and everything as intended. So I can't wait for that day. I know it like just with the animation we got today, we're one step closer to that. And so many people have made the comparison. Like we've always approached this with kind of an invincible lens just because we love that so much, but we're also able to approach it just from a different lens, right? Just appreciate it for what it is. But I feel like after that animation, so many people have made that comparison just looking at the YouTube comments alone, right?
Yeah, without getting into it, yeah, I mean, it was way cleaner and higher quality than it ever needed to be. Like they outdid themselves, and I like how they did the isometric dots too on the characters when you're looking at them on this. You don't see it too often in Invincible. It's always nice, like iconic comic throwback, which I like.
The one thing I really loved about crossover truly was the use of that.
Yeah, it's classic.
Yeah, that was fun just to see distinguish the characters.
There's almost like a moment of hope here because even though Nathan just took it hard from JJ, he was a little bit let down, he has like at least, I don't know if he realizes it yet, maybe he kind of does subconsciously, but at least he has Marshall to lean on now. And I know obviously Marshall, he's a little bit happier with the news. He's like, I just got my buddy back, but Nathan, at least he'll probably have that realization later on that like, okay, I'm in with this I'm here with Marshall, I have someone I can lean on. I'm not on my own. So there's that. I do kind of feel for Nathan though, because it seems like JJ was a positive influence in his life. She like not only like Ali said did she support his healing over the months, but she also really helped him feel like clear his head when it came to his writing, and obviously gave him some pointers and everything. And when they were amicably separating there, going their ways because of life, putting them two different directions, she even offered him a potential opportunity. So it's cool to see things like that.
Yeah. Do you think he was trying to say he's like, I still got PT and this whole thing? I don't know if he was talking about being in debt or probably the radiant thing, obviously, but also he's like in debt. You're not going to say that. And I think another thing to keep an eye on is people are a lot different. Like when you're in love, a lot of things are better. And when you've got a relationship that's going well, like it might be easier to get inspired. His writing could be going well, or it's easier to deal with ruts like that. And you would be less susceptible to talking to giant robots. I know I had a bad breakup and then I fell right to the dark side. Me and the robot, we went and did some bank robbing and did some heists. No, but seriously though, it is the thing. Like it influences you. It really does. So keep an eye on that. Where you think that things are kind of like, even though this issue they kind of bonded at the end and we had a nice ending, and I really love what they did. That we still have a guy going through a breakup and they're fighting over like a lot of power, and power corrupts and causes conflict. So keep an eye on that.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, for sure. I like that. And it's a point that, when you think about it even more, it's true because right now we even see, like we mentioned earlier, there's this dynamic of secrecy, right? Like whether it's intended or unintended, there's this like, oh, I wonder what he's saying to him that I'm not being a part of. So I don't even like, I wonder if the robot is like aware of the emotions that he's like causing. I wonder if the robot is like aware that like by doing this with Nathan and kind of keeping Marshall in the dark that he's kind of like pissing him off, or maybe this is a way to get back at him for disrespecting the robot, like forcing him to step in and intervene on behalf of Nathan during the whole existence issue. So I don't know, maybe it's like there's some interesting dynamics here. And then we cut to the next part of this issue where we're back with Doppler, a fan favorite character, it seems, but will she still be a fan favorite character after this issue? Who knows? Because she's making some very interesting choices. And I gotta say, this was a little bit like ingenious, whether it was intended or not, right? Like she's sneaking onto a film set with a Doppler costume, and for all they know, that she could just be an extra or someone on the set, like someone who doesn't know any better wouldn't really know. But that we're not going to get too deep into that yet because this is just a real quick moment they show us up until we're back at the bar where it all started. We see the discussion continues between Marshall and Nathan, but there's a guy who overhears them, and it's almost like real life, right? When you're having these conversations and people hear you. I don't know if you've ever been to like when you go to an MCU movie, right before the movie starts or even after, you just see people talking about all kinds of MCU stuff, and it's really funny, it's interesting. And here, this person overhears their conversation, and he's like, bro, like, Blaze is a legend. He destroyed Radiant Black, Like, there's no conversation.
That was a nice touch. It was great because the whole fan film is a fan battle, like the what if, the death battle kind of inspiration, and then you literally have the conversations that people have. And the reason is these things go so viral is because we have these conversations. In middle school, I talk about would Wolverine beat a basic Jedi and stuff like that. We're like Vader, he'd lose, but basic Jedi, there's a discussion. So these conversations do happen everywhere, and it's when it doesn't feel like you're reading. Like this isn't a product. This is made. You can tell it's made from the heart, and they're trying to expand and try to make people love comics the way that they love comics when they wrote it. And you can feel that they really feed the community with what they did with this issue and how they respect and look at the community, but also can poke fun at just how obsessed we get with this stuff. So it was great.
I was just gonna say, that we've mentioned this before, that how relatable just Radiant Black is in
This
general.
is us in
And, like,
Discord.
yeah,
this is us in Discord on Wednesdays. Yeah. This is literally us in Discord on Wednesdays. Like he literally tells him, buddy, we know all about Blaze, huge Blaze fans, the real one and the movies. Like this is literally us on Wednesdays after we're literally just talking about comic books. That's what's so funny about it. Like even I gotta give some praise to Eduardo Ferragato here. Like even the gesture and the finger and the way Marshall's looking, like, okay, first of all, like that's
he's
us.
He's ready to lay it all out to him right now.
Exactly. Like that's like I feel like that's almost like that's almost like two phases of like, I don't know if this is actually what Kyle's going through, but I feel like maybe if I was a writer, this is what I'd be going through. Is like Marshall is like me looking at my younger self if I were like 40 and then I understood. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure because Kyle lived it, right? Kyle is someone who loved this shit growing up, loved comic books, loved all this stuff, right? And then he grew up and made them, right? And he's also someone
he loves Batman Beyond. He's working with Batman Beyond on how to voice his character. That's a fanboy.
So he's a fanboy. It's almost like that's Kyle, the fanboy, but like, making the point, like Marshall saying, okay, first of all, but then that's his older, more mature self looking back on his younger self being like laughing, you know what I mean? Where like Nathan's looking at Marshall and smiling, almost like laughing at his whole interaction. So that's how I take it personally. I obviously I think I'm overthinking it, but I think that's hilarious, and that's how I feel. Like because that's us. That's us. And if you have the insight to recognize that, I think it's a good laugh.
The guy kind of looks like Tom Taylor too, if you noticed. To me at least. Anyway.
Yeah. I can see a bit what you mean. it is fun to have those like grounded moments when like it's not just about, because like in this, the second arc was quite action packed, and then I feel like it's quite cool like where it's sort of climaxed with existence, and then here we've sort of got quite a few sort of on like the characters and just I don't know. It's all very interesting, like building up these characters and their like dynamics and just, like the general world and like how it's perceiving the radiance, and it's interesting.
I agree, and I love the little moments that we have, like even the little cute things, like I said earlier, like the hat, sorry, the helmet and the blaze gauntlet. But also, you look at the next page and you see right there, like on set, you see Doppler sneaking through a bunch of people on set. You see some people like there's this guy wearing a hoodie with Blaze's gauntlet. There's another guy wearing Radiant Black cap, and you can buy that exact cap on the store. So I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I love too is like Doppler's reason for going to the show. It's so smart. Like, oh, Radiant Black might show up. I need to get charged by there, and it was a smart plan. I can't believe it didn't work. Like, I can, because actually it makes perfect sense why it didn't work. Like you mentioned, because everyone is like a big fanboy, probably listen to Circle Guy News. They're aware of Sonya Rania. So this whole issue, it just felt like a culmination. Like it's not a finale. It's in the middle of an arc, but it just. Like using Nathan's writing ability to perfect the script in the fan film, like it's like everyone had served their purpose here. It was just, it came together with a nice little bow, and then we got a barcode on top of it, which obviously was a gateway to even like grander pastures. So yeah, it was just a great issue for me.
I just hope Nathan gets credited for his contribution to the script.
yeah, JJ can move back and work on the next fan film. They can work together on the new What If.
Yeah.
Get some of those extra raisins from Mr. Burnett that we all love. But no, I mean, I like that you guys brought that up with the Circle Guy News and everything, because as we see, right, like immediately when people figure out that it's Doppler, because that's the next page, it's like, oh shit, that's Doppler, and we see commotion on the set and everything. It's interesting because I was thinking, like, before we even got to this page, on my first read, I was like, how are they going to handle this? And I was like, okay, like, yeah, the public is very much aware of who Doppler is at this point, because they're aware of who Radiant Black is. They've seen them do the streaming with that one time with Pink as well. Like, right, we've got the amazing cameo here from what's called Possum Wanter, right? Which is like, I just want to say that's hilarious. God bless that cameo. One of my favorite cameos.
Possum Wanter.
Yeah. How meta is that? Amazing. That he's calling out a cameo of Doppler while having his own cameo in the book.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I love that he put the little panel like to emphasize the click culture. We have like this culture right now where we're all just recording things. People are obsessed with everything social media. So I like that little meta commentary there as well. But I really like this. I thought this was a very good page. I do agree with some criticisms, and I know I don't lay out a lot of criticisms, but we are honest here, right? We're not just stands. We're gonna be completely honest about how we feel. And this is how I personally felt. I did feel like Anya's turn in this issue was a bit of like a very convenient, very quick turn. I of course there might be subsequent development that we see in future issues that might lay the foundation for this and obviously flush it out. So there's that. So I'll reserve judgment for now. But I will say, like, it was a bit of a quick turn for her. I didn't expect her to just go from good to bad like that,
Yeah, I feel like it felt a little bit too quick for me as well, because she gave Marshall this whole speech about like being a good guy and trying to help people, but then once Shift shows up, she's like, all right, let's go mess him up. I need my charge. I feel like it's a little different with her too, though, because she actually has a medical condition that
it feels like a drug addiction almost.
It's almost like a necessity, like it's a need. It's like not like the other people that are using suits that charge off radiance. For Anya, it's almost like I said, it's almost like a need. She needs it.
And it was just an okay. You can't say this guy's snuck into your house at night. You can't say no, thank you. Like, what do you think he's gonna do? So you say okay, and then you plot, and you might turn, you might do whatever, because you need this tech. You need a way to get away with this tech and get lost completely if it's gonna help you. But she has prisoners. This program, we saw that she's helping.
She's similar to Satomi, right? She's a teacher, even though like a higher level teacher, she's a professor, right, or associate professor. And then she's also kind of in deep shit with some shady people, almost kind of the same circle of people loosely, because I remember when she was meeting with Epic Front, they basically said, like, she's like, I'm desperate for more, but I don't really have any way to pay you. And then she's like, do this heist for us, right? That's
Yeah.
why she was breaking into banks and robbing all that money. So it's almost like she actually is very similar to Satomi in a lot of ways. Like they have a similar journey. I'm not sure if she has a partner that's abusive. I hope not.
They're
But
likely crossing paths too if they're working with Shift.
that's what I'm
That's a
saying.
good
So,
point.
yeah, exactly. So they might relate to each other, be friends even, but like it's very interesting to see that is that like we have this person who in a lot of ways is very similar to Satomi, even in the sense of her convictions, right? Like she's very certain of how she feels. She's very motivated by her own convictions. She's dead set on her stance, basically, which is why I guess we get a heel turn at the end, even though I want to see more about that. But yeah, that I feel like I hope we see more of her and Satomi together. That could be a very interesting dynamic.
So I think we can all agree Shift is just a pure evil person. But like you said, Anya and Satomi are a little bit more, they got a little bit more depth to them, or like gray area.
Yeah, they're
Definitely.
being manipulated, like in a sense, because they're like I feel like both of them were being put into situations where they're. I guess you could say Anya put herself in that situation because she chose to take those things, but like it's also like you said, there's more complication and gray area because it does enable her to do good first of all with the work that she's doing, but it also makes her feel normal again, and it lets her deal with is it arthritis that she has, or what is it?
Something tremors.
Or tremors or something like yeah. So it allows her to to deal with that. It's almost like medicine. So but it also gives her
Essential
this.
tremors.
Yeah, fair enough. I just want to say,
Mhm.
obviously this issue has a lot of Cowl, but one Cowl callback I especially loved was when they go into the bowling alley and they're fighting. She throws one of the Pock sound signs at him, which I thought it was obviously super cool. But that's also it reminds me of a panel from Cowl where we see Doppler for one of the first times, and they grab one of the letters, like oh my God, they grab the D and then smack the person in the face with the letter. I love that little. I thought that was a really cool callback to
Yeah.
that. But yeah, Doppler looking
That's right.
mighty as hell. I think like her wearing the Doppler costume but not taking off the sweatpants is a choice, and I
I'm
love
looking at
it.
that right now. Yeah, fake Marshall with the Hawaiian shirt
Yes.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, like she
Yeah.
just like she didn't even have to get into full suit, full on suit mode to beat his ass. She just I actually dude Doppler's awesome. I'm not gonna lie, Doppler's awesome.
Her stock rose a lot this issue for me. I really I like her. And there's a lot of like Lisa said like I'm helping prisoners, blah blah blah. But like you do get it and you do get the conflict. Like a lot of this rogue gallery, not all of them are assholes like Guy. They're people that just get in a bad position. Some people get powers that help them and they don't have a condition. But if you have a superpower or you're given this technology that can heal you, you're gonna do what you can to keep it most likely because you're suffering with this nonstop. But we don't see the issues where she's suffering from her condition because it's not the most engaging storytelling, but it's happening in the background all the time. While Marshall's flying around with powers that he got out of nowhere. He was out drinking, got powers he didn't need. If she got that, if like the Doppler suit just fell from the sky and she had no strings attached, but unfortunately she does have this. Your cure, it's expensive. Healthcare is expensive in the States, and this it costs your morals as well. So it's pretty interesting.
Thing that she judges him, right? She wants him to do real change, and like she compares her experience with the young prisoners, and she's just like, okay, you're not really doing anything. And I feel like that's a valid criticism when you consider all the advertising and everything Marshall's been doing. He doesn't take it as seriously as he should, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's something they definitely sort of like demonstrated ever since Marshall took over. Like it was one of the ones in the second arc around Existence where like shows him like trying to do lots of things like around the year and trying to like repair his reputation when he like causes the car crash on the bridge when he's trying to apologize and it feels like Marshall like means well but it doesn't always maybe a bit clumsy maybe just a word to it's an interesting point to think about.
Also the ways that Marshall and Nathan handle issues. We've seen Nathan is like a writer, so he's more in tune with like deep thought and like putting your stuff out there. And he'll like have a cry. We don't see Nathan smoke pot, but we see Marshall do it a lot, which is like it's a way to like just fill your brain with distractions and not confront these emotions. Like we saw him with dealing with the I hate you, right? And the existence. Like it's hard for Marshall to deal with these emotions, and he gets more violent. And I think he's filled with a lot more rage because he doesn't have anybody, and that's how we get rage mode Marshall making these decisions. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Nathan would never do what Marshall did to Excel, for example. Like he would never show up and like, or Sheer, sorry, he would never just show up and like snap his hands or even excel. Like I don't think he would do that, to be honest. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
And
and it was cruel, like the way he like ripped the clothes off of Joao there. Like he didn't just like it's like I can kill you and now you're naked in front of this world. I'm
like
embarrassing
he
you and
humiliated
breaking.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's cruel, is what it
yeah.
was. Even though he's a villain, it's like these villains. You're not going to make him any better. You're just going to make a villain with a deeper grudge against you now is what you've done.
More vengeful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting exchange. I think between like Radiant Black and Anya in the bowling alley because it's weird. Like part of me is like I understand the criticisms of Anya, but a part of me is also like you're kind of a hypocrite, you know, because you're like you're doing questionable shit too, and it's like if you really wanted the charge, like why didn't you just ask, you know? But
Definitely. But you
yeah,
That's
justify it.
fair.
You justify it once.
That's a fair comment. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I
like
thought that too.
like if you really wanted to, if I feel like if she really wanted to show that she's changing over, turning over a new leaf, she could have just shown up to Marshall and explained everything. Been like, look, like this is my situation. This is what I've been trying to do. This is why I needed this. Can you help me out? You know, that would really show change on her part. But I feel like this whole approach is, it just shows because she's kind of turning over to the dark side that she's using, you know, justifications, but kind of the wrong justifications to get her way. And I think this is why. But I also want to see, like I said, I want to see more development. I want to see more of maybe there's things that happened over that time, right? Between that time that he told her to stop robbing banks and the time that she's been doing her work with the prisoners, maybe there's a lot that happened. So I want to see that. Perhaps there's more there.
Yeah, and
All
it's
right.
always
So
that one more to get out, right? That you can't get the Catwoman, Dark Knight Returns, like clean, Dark Knight Rises, clean slate that doesn't exist, right? Like everyone wants that one more thing. But yeah, what were you saying, Ollie?
I'm just saying, when are we gonna get the Doppler miniseries?
I
Is it
Everyone
wouldn't
gonna be
needs a
Mirror
mind.
Image?
miniseries.
I honestly wouldn't mind like if they did the same thing as Invincible, where they did like the Adam Eve and Rex like three
Yeah.
issues or one issue miniseries. Like if they're
Mm.
really short, or if they do one like big issue, like a double sized issue, I wouldn't mind that. Like, but yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of miniseries now. I do kind of like get it though because you don't actually have to like let's put this out there for listeners. You don't actually have to read any of these to keep up with the other, right? Like you really don't. Like we're all reading Radiant Red, and we can all agree that you could still read Radiant Black with no issues without reading any of the other titles. Like
Definitely.
Yeah.
probably even Supermassive. Like to be completely honest, you could skip Supermassive and still be completely okay with everything that's going on in Radiant Black. There's no like you won't be missing anything really, but you do get a lot of bonus. Like if you
And it'll help you with Rogue Sun, like seeing
for
Marcus
sure.
and Axe, for sure.
For
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, like if you love the Massiverse, I highly recommend reading those other titles. And I would say like I think Charlie once said like titles, all these titles in Marvel DC, it's like a going to a restaurant with a menu, right? He's like there's certain things that people like, but not everything is for everyone. So you can pick and choose, and that's the beauty of it. When it comes to the Massiverse, it's very much the same thing. If you really like Rogue Sun, which we all love and highly recommend here, you pick up Rogue Sun and check it out. If you don't need to read Rogue Sun to keep up with Radiant Black. The only thing you need to read to keep up with Radiant Black is Radiant Black.
Well, it's like I remember, I can't remember when it was. It must have been around Supermassive, and they're not gonna say like kill Marshall in Supermassive or whatever or something like that, because then you get to the next issue of Radiant Black and you'd be like, where the hell is he? Like, what happened? So,
Exactly.
which is always something that's fun. Like that's I got to know, especially with like everything going on in the big two these days.
it was like a fun
Yeah,
adventure that if you were there for the trip, you had a great time, but you don't need to be there, but you would like to look at photos and videos of
Yeah.
badass time.
For sure. And yeah, like I really like that they've simplified it that way because I do agree wholeheartedly that Rogue Sun does feel like entirely its own thing. Like the only thing that really is similar between Rogue Sun and Radiant Black is that they're set in the same universe. Like that's the only thing I can really think of that's similar. They're
It's
completely
like
different.
Futurama and Disenchantment. You know what I mean? Like it's like two different eras almost because you have like mystical stuff in Radiant and Rogue Sun, and then it's a more like
Yeah.
sci-fi in Radiant Black. So you get both flavors, and it's great dishes in both issues.
Yeah, and they have like different strengths and they explore different themes and like I love the intimate nature of Rogue Sun where it's focusing so much on family, whereas when you look at
Mhm.
Radiant Black, it actually focuses more on the fallout effects of family, because we see that like Marshall, for example, lacks a family almost entirely, whereas parallels
Yeah.
that with Nathan, who has his family there for him. So we explore that kind of dynamic more. But with Rogue Sun, it's literally all about family so far, and I love it. It's very like this close story, and it's intense. There's a lot of betrayal. It feels like Knives Out, but like superhero. Like that's how it feels when I'm reading
Yeah,
it.
issue
Oh,
5 hit hard.
yes.
So
Right,
good.
yeah.
Can't wait for the sequel. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Tension.
this is awesome. This issue so far. And now we're back on the movie set, right? We're back on the movie set, and we see that Marshall's not particularly happy with the direction of this movie. He's giving, like a fanboy and like a pure, petty person, he's giving the director a lot of shit. He's just like, what gives you the right, blah, blah, blah. And then he just like, all of a sudden, and I feel like this was the same moment that we all had when we played the animation. He's like, wait, is that Will Friedle? And, and he's like, did you just get Batman Beyond to play me? And he's like, we did. And spoiler alert, there's an animation, which we'll cover later on, where Radiant Black is being voiced by Will Friedle, and we've obviously discovered that all those previous advertisements, in-universe advertisements that we've been hearing, were actually voiced by Will Friedle as well. So
I have a question about that. I was under the assumption so far that whoever was voicing Marshall in these advertisements is actually like the voice of Marshall, but I guess this kind of disproves it, that Will Friedle isn't the voice of Marshall. He's just in-universe Will Friedle.
Wasn't he him for both?
yeah, I mean, well,
Oh wait, yeah, because the animation's in universe and he exists voicing him and it's him. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's
Oh,
beyond
yeah,
building
that's
territory.
true. That's true.
Mm.
Yeah, that's some black hole shit. So
I think it's just nice to have this shout out, like the cameo. Oh, so and so's playing me, and then let's a little bit of suspension and disbelief in our black hole.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's a good catch. That is a good.
Yeah, good
At
catch.
least you didn't do it when Basuda was on there going, oh, I noticed you fucked up here on July. It says 2021. So yeah. But yeah.
A wizard did it. If you notice anything that's genuinely.
Yeah, it's either way, it's worth it. And I just love the way, not to get too into it. I've never seen it interact like that where you're reading something in a comic and it's like almost sandwiched in between is the animation, and it's like it's connected and they're talking about it. Like it's crazy. Like we'll get more into it, but
I mean, Nate, the true MVP in this issue, when you really think about it, because this whole time that Marshall's, having a fit, Nathan's been in the background, like helping out, and apparently he started talking to the guy from the bar after the whole Doppler situation, and he's been, pulling some strings and doing some behind the scenes magic for the script, and he actually made some changes to the script that they liked. So he just tells Marshall that he's been trying to be supportive. I love that.
Yeah, that was really great to see. Like some of Nathan's writing, like coming back to the forefront, because obviously with him dying and everything, that got put off for a while. But I don't. Yeah, I think it's like there's little things about these characters that it's just so like interesting to see develop over the issues, like all their little like beats. And
I love the proactivity of it. I feel like that's how you see that there's like almost a Nathan's changing for the better. Like he's improving, because it's like back the Nathan of the first like 6 issues would have been, just like he would have taken the L basically here, and he would have been like, oh. But this Nathan is like, he was smiling the whole issue. He took the whole situation with JJ very well, and he's been very proactive about his work, and I really like to see that. He's almost like, improving.
Yeah, Nathan really needed to win this issue after losing this, and some people, when they go through breakups or they lose a loved one, they dive into their work, and this is a really good distraction for him of like, hey, I made a fan film with my buddy and I actually like improved it, and I did the script, and we got to do that special thing about Cal meeting a superhero that's very close to them. I'm sure they love Blaze, but I think the Radiant Black thing is slowly becoming even closer to them because they're both been Radiant Black and one of them is Radiant Black. So I thought that was just a really nice way to wrap this up. You see writing used in a lot of comics, mostly via journalism, like, oh, Superman, he's a great guy or whatever, stuff like that. Well, Lois is a better writer than that, but this you see like actual writing, like narrative, and how that can help and how you can do small heroics for your friend. Well, not even heroics, but you know what I mean? You can save the day, quote unquote.
Like he's supporting him in ways that even we couldn't think you could support Radiant Black. He's even like, for example, you could say in a sense he's helping him maintain a positive image for the public, right? Because like you could say Marshall's almost like his reaction is very childish in this issue, but we get it, right? Like we get it. Like he wants to. Marshall's had this almost obsession with making sure that he has a positive image with the public. That we see that a lot throughout the series. Like from the very first time he's sitting and we discover Circle Guy News and the telephone screens in the hospital, to him, turning on the TV screen and finally seeing that people are beginning to appreciate Radiant Black for the way that he dealt with Excel. So we see that this is a theme that comes through a lot. Social media perception, but also his personal opinion of himself via those
and
those
ego.
vehicles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good call. It's true. You don't really see that. And plus, like, he's a guy he doesn't have a lot of family and affection, so he's probably not getting attention, but he does have that like motivation. And he always kind of acts like he's like, like a big player. Like he acts like he's like a Hollywood exec with his ideas and his business suggestions. He's got his own school of business, so it's kind of interesting to see the effect that this has on him and the rage as he's going through relationships. So this character is so rich and developed that like it's basically may as well be a real person. Like they're so fleshed out and so layered. Most of these characters are, even characters like Sonya, who we've only gotten 2 issues of. You're like, yeah, you can see the depth.
It's Anya, bro.
True. I don't know where I'm getting Sonya from.
It's okay. I made the same mistake before. One thing that I'm curious about for future issues is because we've seen the seeds planted for this in previous issues, kind of, but here it's more prevalent, which is the rift between the two kind of beginning to grow. Because here he's telling him, like in the very last page, he's telling him, look, man, like, I appreciate you telling me all this, but like, I'm not really cool with you kind of talking to him. It feels like you're doing it behind my back. And I feel like I kind of understand Marshall's perspective, but I feel like he could have been more mature about it, because it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of come across as negative. And, Nathan's almost telling him, like, that's not what I'm trying to do at all. I'm just trying to help. And he's like, we don't have to do it again. And he's like, no, I get it. I get what you're trying to do. But he's like, I think this needs to be my own thing, And he's like, you get that, right? And then he says, yeah, I do, just trying to help. But there's almost like, they're both looking 2 different ways. It's like when you're watching a movie and like the couple that's bickering begins to like both sleep, facing different ways, or there's like the gap between them on the bed grows. I feel like this, while they're not a couple, it's kind of similar in the friendship perspective, right? Like they're both starting to look different ways. They're disagreeing, and it's almost like they're moving away from each other in the last panel. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's almost like a love triangle, to be honest, between Nathan, Marshall, and the robot.
A little bit. Like this is like in their relationship, their friendship. Yeah, there's some speculation on that, but I think right now
it's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's interesting because they get jealous, right? You're talking about it. You talk to the robot. Everyone's like, oh, what's the robot doing? You're talking to this person behind my back. And it's not even that. Like, the robot's force Skyping him. Like, what's he going to do? It's actually like an irritant to Nathan, I'm sure. But he is also curious, as you would be if you're getting contacted by this robot that you thought left you. So it's a very complex thing. You had sci-fi elements on top of a rocky friendship.
I just want to say, first of all, so the next page, we see the Radiant Black versus Blaze. Super cool splash page. It's like a poster promoting the fight. Obviously, same poster we've seen in the beginning of the issue. I just want to say, Team Massiverse, Black Market Narrative, Kyle Higgins, Michael, everyone, awesome. Eduardo, gorgeous stuff here. If you guys can make this a poster, I will buy the fuck out of it. So please do that. Please make this a poster, kind of like they did the other one, and leave the barcode on it if you can. If you could, like, if that costs more money, then don't do it. But if you could somehow print this to be a poster with the barcode, like a nice big poster, I will buy the hell out of it. God. This is a dope poster. Like, this is like.
And you can scan it and relive the memory, like an awesome memory that you'll never forget.
That would be, wow.
If you can make this a product, please do it. Like, guys, I don't want to put pressure or anything, but like, please, if you could make this poster or make this page a poster so we can buy, because I know there's shirts, and I'm already buying the shirt. I'm telling you right now, I'm already going to buy one of the shirts, because if you haven't seen, the Black Market Narrative or the Radiant Black merch website has 2 shirts, one with Radiant Black part of the poster or page, and then the other with Blaze. And it has like promoting the whole versus. Yeah, so I'm already getting one of the shirts because that's too good for me. But they're going to be on sale up to only until July 20. It's the monthly product thing. Yeah, so if you're interested in one, get one before July 20 because they're limited. But
I can't see a barcode being more expensive. It's not like it's like Stark Tech Nanobots or anything to make it up.
Exactly. If it's just printing it, I guess it should just be like more ink, right? Just normal, regular, more. Like,
I'll just
extra.
Yeah. I'll just rip the page off and duct tape it. But yeah, no. Either way, a poster would be nice. The Radiant Black hat, I got sold on it this issue that I have in the back. That's pretty sweet. Like the baseball cap with the logo. No one's gonna know what it is. Like, dude, Internet Explorer is dead. I miss it too, but like whatever. Because it kind of looks like Internet Explorer logo. But yeah, I'll be rocking some.
No, the merch they have is amazing. Genuinely, like, if you haven't seen the merch, I highly recommend checking it out. And they have so much good stuff, especially clothes. Like, there's so many cool things. I'm personally getting some this month. I've been waiting too long. So, but poster, I already got the Black Market Narrative poster from Nakatomi Inc. or whatever when they when they did that. When they
Yeah, the
posted, I was
blacklight
like,
one. That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah, that one's I love it. It's gorgeous. So, anyways, sorry about the tangent. Back to the main thing. So we see that if you're curious about this page, there, please scan the QR code. When I was looking at social media and I was reading some of the reviews for this issue because I was genuinely curious how the public was going to react to this, I saw some people say this was like a bad issue and that like nothing happened, there was no action, and I'm like, I don't think the person scanned the QR code because it's like, how can you say there's no action in this? They literally gave you something no comic has given you before. Like, what? But yeah, so
That,
please scan the QR
that's
code.
ridiculous.
Scan the
That's
QR code. Like even Kyle tweeted, he's like, always scan the QR code. Like always scan the QR codes, guys. Always scan the QR codes. Look at this animation.
It's
It's
not just
public
there
now.
for immersion. I mean, it is
No.
technically like
Yeah.
immersion you can't even like comprehend apparently and scan it. Like Bash, you said to me before, right? Just scan the code, and I was like, what? And I read it, and I was like, yeah, okay. But after the bath bomb, like I know to scan books. Not everyone knows that the Black Market Narrative team is like the most creative people working in comics right now. We're like thinking so far outside the box that the box is it's forever torn. You can't really go back inside the box after what they're
It's a
doing.
black
Like,
hole at this point. You can't see the box. You're just getting sucked into the box.
yeah.
It's just further and further in.
Exactly. But I gotta say, recently Kyle Higgins tweeted a thread where he talked about, like, he's like, in case you missed it, IGN helped us debut an original in-universe animated short, and he talked about, he posted the link to IGN's article where they said, Will Friedle voices Image Comics superhero animated short. Really proud of Team Radiant Black, Team Massiverse, Team Black Market Narrative. Congratulations, guys. That's amazing. Especially you get coverage on someone like IGN, who everybody knows. So he talked about some of the things that he did and how he likes to take bigger swings in comics and how he encourages other creators to do that. So if you don't follow Kyle Higgins on Twitter, check him out. He's amazing. And check out Black Market Narrative as well. That's their official channel where they promote all of their books. And his Substack or newsletter, Kyle Higgins Black Market News, that's their official, everything. That's where they tell us everything. So the new product drops, the new news for comic books, everything. So if you want to be up to date on everything Massiverse, Radiant Black, make sure you're following those channels. Yeah, the last page here, we're on the final page, we're about to end. We see that obviously, thank God we talked about animation, because you see that Anya's watching the animation and she's just like not convinced. She's almost disgusted. You see, like it feels as if everything she said, Radiant Black didn't really take to heart. He kind of just like, yeah, whatever, and did his own idea of what that is, and that's not good enough for her. So you see Shift show up in the creepiest way possible. Like, how does he even know where she like, I don't know, like, did they just like know where she lives to keep track of her? I guess she's getting the tech and everything from them.
Yeah.
And she's just like, yep, okay, like right away. It doesn't even question or anything. So I'm a little bit, I need a little bit more personally to be sold on that. But I did really like this issue. I especially want to say thank you to Team Radiant Black for giving us the model sheets and a little bit of making of verses in the back matter. That's like
Even
the best
Kyle
thing.
didn't know about those. He's like, what?
Yeah, it's like the best thing ever. Truly, I watched verses at least 15, 20 times at least. So
It was amazing to see Existence animated and to hear the robot actually
God, that was.
Yeah, it was the piece de existence. It was amazing. My mind was blown, and like we'll go into it more in greater detail, but like they matched like Amazon level animation from like the Bezos money, that they're going to space with their money and they're making cartoons as well. But like holy shit, it was good. It was like I
top
want
tier everything.
Yeah,
Top tier.
we thought we'd have to wait years. Like I thought I'd be 40 before I saw this shit. Like this is great.
No, for sure. And when you think about like who they got to work on the actual animation itself, there's some heavy hitter. I believe the animation itself was made by Tiger Animation, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just gonna double check that. I don't know where it says that, but yeah. So produced by Phil Crane and Kyle Higgins, executive producer Shuhun Sun. Let's see, executive producer Marcelo Costa, Alex Siegel, Rod Rice, so obviously Cow people, and then we've got edited by Alex Siegel, art directed by Marcelo Costa and Eduardo Fregato, storyboards by Brandon McKinney and Eduardo Fregato. See, I told you guys, Eduardo is a storyboard artist. I knew he was involved. Backgrounds by Ramon Palermo, and additional art by Igor Monti, animation by Tiger Animation, music by Christopher Carter, sound supervisor Matthew Taylor, sound design Pete Nichols, titles by Michael Basuto, Will Friedle, of course, the legend, Reginald James, Rick Kramer, and David Sobolov. That's everybody involved with the animation.
Damn.
And if you do some research, I went to Tiger Animation's website because I'm like I've already heard of them before, but I'm not super familiar with my animation. So I looked at the portfolio, and Tiger Animation did like Castlevania, uh,
Oh,
Avatar: The Last Airbender, Planet Hulk, Spider-Man, some Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. Like these guys are big animators, right?
Jesus.
They
Yeah,
did Spawn too. They did a
yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of
Justice League War, Justice League
DC
versus
stuff
Teen
as well. Yeah.
Titans, Ben 10, Justice League Gods and Monsters, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Superman, Batman Apocalypse, Batman Dark Knight Returns 2. Like these are big
They
movies,
don't
right? Like
play. Yeah,
yeah,
damn.
Batman Year One, Catwoman, All-Star Superman, The Batman, yeah, Stitch, Turbo. So it's like this is like I was impressed with the level of quality they brought. Like no, Justice League Unlimited, right? Like Spawn.
If there is an animated show in the future, you'd have to imagine Tiger is obviously like 80% chance that they would be involved, right? Like if they already have the models and it works so well. So that's what I thought.
You know what's super ironic is that I was doing a rewatch of Batman Mystery of the Batwoman the day before the new Radiant Black
Oh,
issue dropped, and it turned out they animated that movie too. So that
damn.
was a happy coincidence. But yeah, I
How,
mean, well, how did you guys feel about this animation? Are you blown away?
Easily.
it was,
It was so much
yeah.
fun to just watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it, and like every time I'd notice like a little detail. But the thing that I loved the most was how good it was. Like for something that isn't really the comic book. Like you buy a comic book, you expect to read a comic book. But then getting this as a side, that the side was better than the main dish in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. This was like another. It was just it blew me away. I was sitting there like giggling for a long time. Not gonna lie, I was pretty blown away.
I was in disbelief at the
yeah.
beginning. Like I was like, are they really gonna fight and like go all out? But it happened, and
Dude, I
it was
like
amazing, such a
gasped. I
joy.
audibly gasped. Like when I saw Radiant Black, like you know when he says hello, like oh like time travel, blah 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 is all in Spider-Verse or something, and I was like, oh, I literally gasped out loud. I was like, oh my God, it's Radiant Black.
I had a nerdgasm. Like this is amazing. Like I love Death Battle. Like the Goku Superman
Yeah.
Death Battle is iconic, and this was better animation than people that have like a million subs and do this. Obviously, this is an animation company, and usually they do it with people online. But like this was like the coolest thing I've seen in comics, and I don't think like IGN wrote about it a week later. I don't think people are gonna fully realize what was done. People that
No,
don't read Radiant Black for
we
years.
talked about this, right? We talked about this recently off the recording. We were talking
Yeah.
about how the people who read Radiant Black like years later or even like when it's 30 issues in are going to have a very different experience of people like us who are currently reading the book because we're living everything as it happens. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
yeah, it's not going to be the same as like scanning your book. You're like most people are going to know by the time there's an animation and everything, but for us like we're living all these moments and it's insane. And another thing I have to bring up is speaking of, since we're at the end of this issue, this bar that we see again in this issue
Is real.
is real, and there's actually going to be a meetup with the Radiant Black creators. It's hosted by the Radiant Black creators, and it was mentioned in Kyle Higgins' recent Substack, so check that out. It's going to be around the same time as C2E2, sometime in August.
Yeah,
They're meeting.
The Lockport tourism board really owes Kyle a service here because I think their tourism is going to get a boon after like this C2E2, and you're in animation now. Lockport, I don't know how many animations it's been in, but I bet this is the first or big
Yeah,
widespread one.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'll just tell you again where it is specifically. So it's at Lockport, Ember's Tap House, 933 S State Street, Lockport, Illinois. It's Thursday. It's on Thursday at August. It's Thursday, August 4th at 7 p.m. So yeah, check that out. That's gonna be so awesome. There's gonna be a whole bunch of people from the creators going there, including Michael Basuto, Eduardo Ferragato, Cherish Chen, Alyssa Flores, Mac Room, Joe Clark, Alex Siegel, Lawrence Holmes, Ryan Parrott. Ryan, Bill, and TJ from Circle Guy News. The possibility of Ryan Parrott, and then of
It's the
course
Supermassive
Kyle.
Con, realistically.
Yeah, Kyle
I like by the
Higgins as
sound of
well.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. And like there's got to be a special feeling to be in Chicago, not only in the place that the comic book is set, but in the very same bar that we almost lost Nathan. Like I don't know, that's just awesome, man. I can't imagine the conversations that are going to be had that day.
Yeah, that's so cool just to think about. I actually like going to those places.
Yeah.
They should do like a walking tour of like where Nathan and Marshall were walking in the issue when they were like young and stuff like that. They could do like a whole thing of it. Like that's so cool. What are you saying, Beth?
I was just saying I'm so envious of those who are going to be going. I wish everyone has a great time. If you're in the States and you're able to go. It seems like it's going to be such a blast. I don't know if anyone from Rain Black podcast will be able to make it this time out, but if there's ever a sighting of any of the Massiveverse people in Canada, you could bet they will be there.
Yeah, yeah. Illinois has never been iller than with what Kyle's been doing there, and that's impressive. Like we say it all the time, but like this book pushes the limits of the genre, of the medium, of like it's amazing. We were asking for scratch and sniff, and they were making like animations, like got like legit, like that it could stand aside like Young Justice and like other like modern shows that are like people consider top tier. Like god damn, like it was cool. Like imagine if you're like a 5-year-old kid and you're reading like Superman and he fights like I don't know Doomsday and you can scan it and like watch it. Obviously it's cool. Like
yeah, that's game changing, honestly.
It was so dynamic and just I don't it just felt so like slick. I think it wasn't like it was like a like a fun like side like fan film thing. It was like it felt so like genuine and just like professional, and it was so fun to see.
And the humor of like, oh, scene redacted, like Radiant Black losing, redacted, and to make it a fair fight, how Blaze got powered up by the robots, that was really cool. Like, and recreating scenes like from the cover of the volume 1 where he's like flying through the sky and stuff. Or either way.
And also, did you guys notice that? I don't know if this was a little wink to Radiant Red, but when Blaze gets the power from the supercharge and he turns red and he's like, oh, a killer red, eh? I'm just like, is that a reference to Radiant Red? Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? That's what it feels like. It's almost like a throwback to Red versus Blue, or Red versus Black, sorry.
Yeah, like this, it's kind of cool. Like, can you imagine? Like, I can't imagine seeing like yellow and pink and red like all interacting in an animation like that. Like, that was amazing.
God.
Like, yeah, like it's easy to imagine now. Like, I'm not expecting an animated show still for like a long time or like a movie, but like we talked about this on the podcast, how Kyle has the skill set going to school for filmmaking, right, and stuff like that. Like, we talked about like a Radiant Black movie, how he was saying he would want to direct it, but little did we know he already freaking did this. He was probably thinking about directing something when the series was in its infancy. Like, god damn.
And to work in the Cowl universe and make it something that exists as part of like the Radiant Black universe now is kind of brilliant. It's a brilliant way to pump some interest and some awareness into something that he's already created that I think is incredible, and a lot of people who've read it think is really awesome. And if you haven't checked it out, please check it out. So there's that. But yeah, also like the idea that Cowl is now, as Ray Drago 5 from the Radiant Black Discord put it, it's almost like a JSA type situation for precedent, right? But there's been a lull until recent events. That's what they said. So I think I kind of agree with that, and I like that take, is that we have the Cowl being the Chicago Organized Workers League being like the JSA kind of, where they're like, they've been the old superhero team that exists in this universe. They're not just fictional, but they're real. They're these superheroes that people look up to. There's been franchises based on them, and it works at such a good time in culture, I feel like, to do something like this, because people are seeing it even in The Boys, right? We see like the first 3 episodes of season 3, they're doing like all the Dawn of the Seven stuff, which is poking fun at things like Zack Snyder's Justice League and all that stuff. So
how would you
meta
do that?
commentary.
I think what's interesting is you can see why they yada the Savage Dragon cameo. Like, you're drinking at the bar and you see Savage Dragon on the TV, or he's just there. It's like, that's commonplace because we have superheroes in the universe. It's just no big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's like it's super cool to get these moments, and I gotta say, one of the most interesting takeaways from this issue for me is just the idea that Cowl now is canon in Radiant Black, and that they're basically, like Kyle confirmed this on the Discord, they're basically part of the universe. So I can't wait to see how that plays out long term. Could we see like Blaze coming back and kicking some ass and helping Radiant Black in the future? Like, who knows? You know?
Oh shit, that's cool. That's a good idea. Also, like, yeah, Cal, like Bash recommended earlier, like, it's only 11 issues too. You can read it quickly if you want to. It's not like, it's like 30 or 40 or 50 issues. Like, if you want that, and of course it adds context to this, and it looks like Cal's coming up more and more. Like, you get more out of the series. Like, when Marshall's depressed, when Nathan's about to be taken off the ventilator, like, he's there watching Cal. He's watching Blaze talk, and then he later fights Blaze. Like, God, that's cool.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about Cowl, we're going to be doing a Cowl episode soon where we cover it, because it's just really good. I feel like it's worth covering. And now that it's part of the Radiant Black universe, I feel like some people might be more interested in learning more 100%. About Cowl. Yeah, very Watchmen vibes I get from it.
Yeah, if there was ever a time because like I've been meaning to read Cowl, like, ever since I started reading Radiant Black and I've heard about it. So if there was ever time for me to grab those trades, it's now after all this issue, definitely.
Oh, for sure. And for me, like I've been fortunate enough, lucky enough to actually randomly find the single issues. And I did not forget that we on the Discord promised that there would be a community event soon where we, would host something like the trivia or something like we've done before, and the prize would be a giveaway for Cal #1, which is obviously the first appearance of all those characters, but also just a damn good story. So those of you interested in being part of that, keep your eyes out on the Discord. And yeah, anything else you guys want to add before we close this?
Just thank you for a great issue and animation, honestly. It was a great time reading it and watching it.
Yeah, this is a two-parter, right? Sorry to interrupt. You can edit that out. Sorry. Anyways, keep going.
I thought it was cool how it didn't feel like hollow or like empty or like we were sort of saying earlier, like it just feels so full of like heart and like especially with because we obviously like knew about the film set like a few months in advance of the solicit, but it's like interesting how that time with like Doppler and like everything's sort of like tying together. It's just so like well thought out, and there's so much like love and heart and thought, and I know it's just it's so great to see. Like it just feels so
I love Marshall's sass whenever he's talking to people about Cal, where he's like the first time he sees Doppler and he's like, really, did you just like appropriate the character from the series? And she's like, yeah, so like in issue 9. And then this time he sees Doppler in the when they're filming the movie, and he just says to him, he's like, oh, don't even consider how my feelings are that I have to kick my like role model's ass, basically. And I just thought that was a brilliant line.
Yeah, and that's why it would fit in and why it wouldn't fit in the Doppler costume. It's like, yeah, it fits in, but he'd also get a lot of attention because it's like super good cosplay because it's like a suit or whatever. So it just works on so many levels. Like it feels like it's crazy. Like how much happened in this issue? We start an existence, we get a breakup, we get Doppler coming in, we're doing a fan film, we rewrite the fan film, we shoot the fan film, we can scan the fan film and watch the fan film. Like what the hell?
Some people voice concerns about like pacing issues with Radiant Black, and I get that, but I feel like also this is, since we're in it for the long haul now, this is a series where we said like Kyle's doing his own thing. He's really taking a lot of risks, big swings. So I do agree that we're kind of lingering on a few things, but when it's well executed, it's not a big deal. And like we've seen with Invincible that it's once we get to space in Invincible, it was a completely different book. Like the book changed in scope, the book changed in scale, the issues were different. We're literally dealing with diarrhea from space food at one point, right? And like, like remember? Do you guys remember? That's such a good issue too. It's very realistic when you think about it, right? Like
he was the alien. Our characters were the aliens on their planet, right? It was really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like it's similar to Radiant Black, where once we really elevate it, once we go to that cosmic scale, it's gonna be hard to go back down. So it's gonna take some time to build up to that. So for those of you who are like eagerly anticipating that, trust me, we are too, right? We all are. We're all looking forward to the craziness. But at the same time, what I got in issue 9 and 10, where they do the whole existence, like sated me personally enough for quite a few issues, because I know, like we all know it's pretty obvious. Once it changes, once it goes to that level, it's going to be completely different. So let's enjoy the ride for now, right?
We all go through growing pains in our teens, right? And I think we had a lot to establish with these new characters, right? And now it's paying off. Like with Doppler, right? Like first it's like, okay, we get Doppler, she was cool. Now we get more, we can flesh these characters out. We know them, they're established, and we can kind of bring them in and just grow them. And I think that's working. Like Guy is working really like what they're doing with Zhao. So I think that
even Radiance, right? Like Radiant Red, we just saw in issue 3, and I'm gonna spoil this because issue 4 just came out, so you should have read it. But spoiler alert: Radiant Red issue 3, we saw that Satomi has her own robot as well. So we're seeing that the implications of everything, the dynamics are changing. Now, if she has a robot, Satomi has her own robot, that probably means Wendell has his own robot. That probably means that what's it called? Eva has her own robot. Yeah, so it's like that's gonna make things crazy. And we've already seen, and I'm not sure how associated Dead Lucky is, but aesthetically it looks close to the themes and the aesthetics of Radiant Black. We've seen that in one of the variants that BB has like a robot thing behind her as well. Like I don't know what that is. We've seen her kind of use it too. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. Don't worry. The robots are coming. The space aspects are coming. Let's enjoy the ride. Let's enjoy the journey.
Don't forget that we still don't know what this comic is about.
Well, Well, it's interesting because I was just looking back up the solicit for what issue 1, and there was like the last couple of lines of that solicit that were like what like, properly intrigued me. Like I was going to check it out, but then those last couple of lines I was like, okay, this is gonna be something long term. But like when you say about it going cosmic, there's definitely something there which we haven't quite.
I mean, there's scenes from the trailer we haven't even seen yet. If you
Yeah.
go to the very last scene in the trailer where he's kind of merging with the big robot and they're doing like a big explosion, we've never, and he's exploding near those beings we saw when he teleported into space with Eva for the first time. We've never seen that. Like we've never seen that in the book.
No.
Yeah. So we don't even know. Like they've said, right? They've said they've been planning issue 36 or whatever it was a few weeks ago. So they have a long-term vision for this book, and I think we should just enjoy the ride. Like, yeah.
Well, because those last couple of lines in the issue 1 solicit sort of allude to the origin of the Radiants, which we don't really know anything about. That's obviously going like some long term.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like how far ahead. But yeah, it's a fun ride.
For sure. And we've already seen in Supermassive when Marshall looks into the vision, right? He sees that radiant phantom being standing with all those other people, and they're looking at the destroyed parts of Earth. So there's a lot of destruction, almost like a large scale event taking place. So we know that there's something big to look forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think just finally, it was when you were talking earlier about how when people sort of revisit the series, like it won't be the same, and it made me think about back to Invincible when I sort of read the first 3 compendiums in like the first few months of this year, and it was just interesting, like seeing like how like short some of the issues felt, but then like that as like the whole thing developed over like 150 issues over such a shorter length of time than it released. It was hard to believe that it was released over like 15 years and you can read it over like no time at all. Yeah, it's fun to think about.
It's true. I binged it for the first time in like 6 days, something like that. I finished it very fast, and it's like it's really hard to, on the first read through. Obviously, you appreciate the story because it's incredible, but it's also hard to appreciate like it's such a bingeable series that it's difficult to appreciate how long it took to make, right? Like Otley talks about how like it took him so many years. He's like, it's like there's like this many years of content, and you guys are like binging it this many days, like. It's different. It hits you different. You experience it different. But I can't imagine. We always talk about this being doing what we do here. We talk about reading Black monthly. I can't imagine what it was like reading Invincible monthly, like having to wait after experiencing some of those things. Like it's crazy. It must have been like agonizing,
I know.
Like I can't deal with that person. Like it sucks. It really like the worst thing about Radiant Black, to be completely honest, is having to wait a month for the next issue. Like that's the worst thing. Like, it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's so good. The quality's there. It sucks having to wait a month for the new issue. But I gotta give them credit. They're almost always on time, and quality is always up there. Everything's fantastic. The covers are insane. They've been truly killing it. So I can't say really I have anything to complain about. And speaking of, we recently got confirmation from Michael Basudel on the Discord that Radiant Red will be collected in trade paperback. So if you're one of those readers who have been waiting for a collected edition, you have that to look forward to. They're saying it's going to be sometime towards the end of 2022, I believe. So October, like that, sometime like October, November, something like that. So you might have to wait a minute, but there's that to look forward to. Other news, we've got Eduardo Ferragato hopping on with us in a couple of days to talk about Radiant Black, so I'm very excited for that. Talk about the storyboards, the animation. Oh yeah, like very excited for that. I've been looking forward to that for a while. And then one beautiful thing that was quite a surprise was that recently on Twitter, Ryan Parrott co-tweeted one of our tweets and said, he'd love to come back on the podcast and talk about Rogue Sun now that the first arc is complete. So obviously we took him up on that offer. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about Rogue Sun with Ryan Parrott? And we've voiced our opinions on how good Rogue Sun is and how I personally think, like apples to apples, the first few issues are actually a little bit better than Radiant Black. And I think Cataclysm is like my favorite villain so far. Master badass person. But yeah, check out Rogue Sun if you haven't checked out Rogue Sun. If you like the podcast, we really appreciate it because there's been so much support and the positivity over the last few weeks and months. So thank you so much to everybody. And we would really appreciate if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. That would really go a long way for the podcast. But yeah, no, thank you everyone. In the future, we're also doing a giveaway. It's going to be an awesome giveaway. Details are coming very, very soon. So if you want to be a part of that giveaway, just check us out on any social media. We have our socials in the description. Probably Twitter would be the best place and the easiest place. I apologize in advance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today. It's been an honor.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And we're going to invite you back on for sure. We love talking with everyone part of the community. Of course. Thank you for joining. And, join us on Panel to Panel where we talk about other comics. And I think Joe's expertise would probably be amazing there as well. Joe reads a lot of comics as well.
I might have to choose something and pick up something good. But...
For sure. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today and stay radiant.